Now, I would like to introduce John Jefferies from BlockNative. John, over to you.
Hello, my name is John Jefferies. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for BlockNative, and I'm really pleased to be able to present to you today, and appreciate the time you're spending with us to learn about BlockNative and what we're doing in the pre-chain environment. So I'm going to bring up my screen really quickly, and hopefully you can all see. If not, please put a note in the chat. But our superpower is really to be able to see the future. So BlockNative lives and thrives, and our expertise is in the pre-chain layer of the Ethereum blockchain and other blockchains. We have this ability to actually see what's going to happen at the consensus layer prior to it being committed to the blockchain, which really enables our customers and our users to have a great deal of confidence as they transact in Web3 and on Ethereum. And so what we're going to be speaking about today is being able to orchestrate or manage these Web3 transaction life cycles. But I'm going to take a little step back and tell you a little bit about BlockNative itself. So BlockNative is core to a lot of the infrastructure on the blockchain and in the Ethereum network. So we work very closely with layer 1 networks, with the Ethereum Foundation itself, Polygon, Phantom, Binance Chain, and we help support those with gas prediction, with preview, with simulation capabilities that enable their users to have much more confidence. We actually also work with all the major wallets. So we are the easy button for decentralized applications to actually integrate various different wallets, hardware wallets, Ledger, MetaMask, Tally wallet, Coinbase wallet. Also very simple to integrate with our tool. And from there, users or dApps and networks can instrument the wallets and present the user with a much more rich, stateful interface. And then we also work with many of the major protocols and dApps themselves. So once again, this capability to be able to see what's happening pre-chain is a very powerful capability for decentralized apps themselves. But why this focus on Web3 transactions and particularly on the pre-chain layer itself? And the reason is because there's an expectation that after you intend to create a transaction, you sign it and it's final. Unfortunately, that's not the reality of Web3 transactions today and Ethereum transactions today. They're expected to be quick and secure and immutable, and also open and transparent. But in many cases, the reality is much, much different. In reality, it looks a lot more like this, where the transaction is in a state where it's competing with possibly thousands of other transactions to make it on to the current block. And that creates a lot of anxiety for users, and also opportunities for hackers and predators in the dark forest to take over, to search for MEV and dislodge transactions. So we think that there is a process in between here, and I think once you see it, it becomes fairly obvious that this pre-chain layer is where a lot of the action is, and a lot of what's happening that creates that anxiety and creates the inconsistency in user experience, which often results in churn. So the process is really starts with an intent. I want to do a swap on Uniswap. I want to swap USDC for ETH or whatever that is. So it starts out with that intent. Then I compose that transaction. The very next thing I do is price that transaction. So we have probably the most accurate gas fee prediction capabilities in the market. So you price that transaction, determine whether or not you want to process it at that current price, or if you want to wait and do it later. We also have the ability, you also preview that transaction. So you want to see what's going to happen, we'll see what the outcome is once you authorize it, which then results in the transaction itself being out in the wild. And after it's out in the wild, you actually want to monitor it to make sure what's happening. If you have a transaction that's delayed for some reason, you want to know what the status is. So this pre-chain layer is where a lot of the anxiety happens and where a lot of the user experience is determined. And then finally, it's written to the blockchain. So this is what we term the Web3 transaction lifecycle. And as we present it to folks, very few people deny that this is sort of the basic flow of a transaction. Now, as it's flowing, you might want to recompose or reprice it. You may want to reconsider that transaction in its entirety. It might get stalled. You may have to retransmit it. So there's a lot of issues and opportunities within the pre-chain layer to impact and affect the transaction as it's flowing. It might get stuck. You may have to speed it up, replace it. So there's a lot of variability in terms of what needs to happen. And today, the reality is it's very difficult to work with this data, especially cross-chain. But even on Ethereum layer 1, the data itself is very difficult to work with and somewhat complicated as well. So then what this creates is bad UX, which results in churned users and unhappy experiences, the feeling that Web3 is in its infancy, but it also presents a certain amount of risks for hacks and also MEV and arbitrage opportunities that might be dislodging transactions. And this pre-chain layer and this transaction lifecycle really affects every part of the ecosystem, every transaction, and every wallet and user themselves. So it creates many questions. As you're processing a transaction, as you're thinking about it, you might ask, do I really want to do this? Should I intervene? Can I get a better price? Is it really going to make it across the network? And so there's a lot of issues and a lot of questions that users have as transactions are being processed. It's literally like that moment after you swipe your credit card before it's approved. There's that moment in time where it is opaque to you what's going to happen, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So BlockNative, our transaction orchestration platform, provides end-to-end transaction transparency. So the user and the dApp and the wallet can all see what's happening in real time and communicate that to all parties as it's processing. So starting with the onboarding of the user and the dApp. So Web3 onboard is our capability to enable decentralized apps to integrate with 37 of the top wallets, including the top hardware wallets, which are often a little harder to integrate with. Web3 onboard is an open source offering. It's available on GitHub, and I encourage you to try it. We have gas prediction capabilities, some of the best in the world, since we are looking at future gas prices versus a lot of other gas estimation capabilities are driven from historic transactions. Transaction preview is a critical capability in simulation. Our detailed simulation enables the execution of internal and external contracts, so you can see what the balance changes are. And we also provide the ability to monitor these transactions while they're in flight. And this gives the ability to actually provide answers to and solutions and interventions to some of those questions that we posed earlier, which, do I want to reconsider this or speed it up or replace this transaction? We have the capabilities to enable that functionality. So what we're really doing is we're giving users and dApps control over the transaction lifecycle, which enables, really is one of our focuses, enabling the next billion users to be able to onboard and into the Web3 environment, onto Ethereum, and really start to enjoy the benefits of, financial inclusion, new sorts of applications, and really have a much more stateful experience as they're looking at their interfaces. So as I mentioned, one of our core capabilities is gas prediction. So we offer gas prediction tools. We were the first to offer 1559, EIP 1559 support back in August, which saved the industry approximately 9% in gas fees. We have tools, a web interface, which you can get to simply at gas.blocknative.com. That's free and available. We also have a gas extension, which can be downloaded and included in various different browsers, Chrome, Brave, Safari, and others. And that gives you some powerful capabilities, including alerts. So you can be automatically alerted when the price of gas drops below a certain point or above a certain point. The interface looks a lot like this, but we also have some interesting charting tools, so you can see historic trends in the short term and over a longer duration, so you have a sense of whether or not you want to execute a transaction now or perhaps wait. Transaction Monitor and the mempool API is some of the core of our capabilities. So Transaction Monitor, it really enriches the pre-chain data stream. So the mempool, it can be hard to read and difficult to work with. So our decoding and enrichment capability make it more accessible to human beings and to code. And really we normalize the data such that it can be worked with in a programmatic manner. We also offer Mempool Explorer, which is the visual interface into the mempool, and you can compose different filters and watch different addresses and streams. For instance, I like to watch my own wallet as I'm transacting, so I can see what's happening in the mempool in real time. And then we also offer an API, a mempool API, which has a rich interface into our mempool data. The mempool Explorer looks like this, and you can see you can choose to monitor various different protocols and dApps. You can watch, for large transactions on your favorite DEX. You can watch for anomalies in various different smart contracts, and it gives you really a great deal of confidence, and also the ability to visually compose your queries such that you can compose them in the Mempool Explorer interface, and then bring those queries into code and embed them in various different applications. So you can do things like, watch your favorite contracts, watch your own wallet, and it's a very, very powerful tool. This is free to try, and you can use it right now, explorer.blocknative.com. We also have Transaction Preview. So Transaction Preview provides pre-flight information on what the anticipated and simulated transaction outcome is. It determines the balance changes and looks at and executes the internal and the external smart contracts based on the current block state. So you'll know it'll throw errors if there's any errors in the smart contracts, and you can choose to not execute if the simulation outcome is not desirable. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we have Web3 Onboard, which is the capability to actually integrate very rapidly multiple different wallets within decentralized apps. It's really focused on both delivering a superior developer experience in that it's very easy to maintain and add wallets, but also it enables the dApps themselves to deliver a very powerful user experience through the BlockNative Notify API, which allows instrumentation of the wallets and instrumentation of the dApps, so that users can be aware of the status of their transactions and hopefully churn less than they would otherwise, because your users are only one click away from, or one transaction away from leaving you. So really what we're focused on is democratizing access to this pre-chain layer such that users can enjoy the benefits and feel the confidence of knowing what's actually happening to their transactions as they're in flight. And so I have gone a little bit quickly. Here are some resources that are available: gas.blocknative.com, Explorer. We have a rapid prototyping tool for the Web3 onboard product called React Demo. There you can play with the capabilities and test them out in real time. And also our open source capability and code is available for free and download on GitHub. And so without further ado, and with a couple minutes to spare, if we have any questions, happy to take questions.
See any questions in the chat, John? Do you?
I do not.
Okay. Well, we only have less than a minute left anyways, so unless one pops up right now, we'll move on.
Great. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.